So, I mean, right? Crazy town. I bet you don't know when you just hand over your privacy. You have no idea. You're like, oh, can we see this? And you're like, oh yeah, click the box, right? No problem. And bingo, bango, bongo, they know everything about you, right? I've seen it all. Okay, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. That's what's that from? Extras. It's from Extras. Ricky Gervais Extras, and it's a Patrick Stewart scene, and Patrick Stewart's pitching his idea for a video, and it's ridiculous. Okay, there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Seen it all. The RCMP, this is real. Gray checkmark RCMP says today, the RCMP officially announces the addition of the ribbon skirt to the RCMP uniform. The ribbon skirt, along with our eagle feather and Métis sash, demonstrate the RCMP's value of reconciliation, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Barf. There's the ribbon skirt. Do you see it? Do you see the Rainbow Guard doing their power show, right? This is akin to a whole bunch of Islamic people doing their Islamic prayer and doing the call to prayer and all that other stuff in competition with a church or something to that effect. This is a show of power. And my goodness, the RCMP, what a show of power, right? I think. Here is war. We have to start at war because obviously I think that the West is in a state of not peace, let's say. And Dr. Ahmed says, says, make no mistake, this is why Rishi Sunak has called the election. We are at war with Russia, and he doesn't want to be a wartime prime minister. Okay, so this is 30 seconds of Andrew Brigden. This is a UK Conservative MP. He's 5 times been elected and re-elected, and he's been a tour de force talking about all these things that have been happening with COVID, with regards to COVID and all of the rest of the stuff that's happened around it, the injuries, the vaccine rollouts, all of the stuff. He's been there at every turn. And so here he's giving some insider information about Rishi Sunak and what's going on with Russia. Here we go. And I've got to say, why wouldn't, with all of this known, I'll tell you this first before we listen to that. Great GB News says World War III fears erupt after the Kremlin warns it will strike British targets if UK weapons are used to hit Russian territory. So they've officially told the United Kingdom's government, the English-British government, if you do this, we're going to retaliate. And why wouldn't they retaliate? Why wouldn't they retaliate? Like the whole West is saying these guys are bad guys, and the West is and the Russians are saying, you know, they're cutting people's genitals off. I don't know about these crazy people. Here's Andrew Bergton.
Rishi wants out. We are actually at war with Russia now.
We've got. They
haven't told you. Haven't told you.
So say that again.
We're actually at war with Russia now. I met the Russian ambassador in London a couple of months ago, and he said that we know that your people are firing those Storm Shadow missiles at us out of Ukraine because you couldn't train the Ukrainians to do it. We know you're doing it. They're determined to get us into a war with Russia. Rishi wants out.
So there you go. You know, how hard could it be to fire a Hellfire missile? Somebody gives you a phone and says, listen, here, the green button is, you know, armed and the red button is fire. Okay, there you go. That's it. How hard could these things be? I'm kidding. I'm probably, I have no training in any kind of military weapon systems or things like that. Are they super complicated or are they super easy? All the terrorist movies I've seen, from True Lies up to Enemy of the State and Eagle Eye, leads me to believe super easy once they're deployed. Deploying them hard, firing them super easy, right? So maybe it's the deployment that's complicated, right? How come the Ukrainians can't be the ones firing these things? I wonder, like, we know that you're not doing this, or we know that the Ukrainians aren't doing this. It's you guys, because it takes 5 years to learn how to fire this thing, right? I don't think it takes 5 years to learn to be a pilot. They were like, hey, kid, you're a pilot now. Welcome to the Second World War. There's your plane. Don't get shot down. And you're kind of like, what? I'm afraid of heights. Or you're a parachuter now, right? Like, there wasn't much in the way of training. I'm saying, right? So, and they didn't even have smartphones. Like, push the button here for the safety to be off, and then push this button here to shoot the weapon, right? Like, no, I could be wrong, but it seems like an interesting. I'd love to understand the complexity, and maybe there's resources for me somewhere, I'm not sure, of how to fire these weapons, because that's an interesting statement to make. But let's accept that at face value. The Ukrainians can't do it. So if you guys do it, we're not going to fight Ukraine because we've already won Ukraine. Like, it's a demolished little country, and it really doesn't seem to deter NATO. The destruction of Ukraine doesn't seem to deter NATO for their war goals, right? They're not saying, oh, we've really got to think twice. We've lost all these cities. They're like, you know what we need? More money. That's it, right? And so they're not being deterred by this. So maybe this change of strategy will deter that, like, will make the war less popular with some politicians, right? And can you be called a far right anti-bomb person? You know, like, oh yeah, well, we like being bombed by Russia because it's virtue signaling about how committed to the war in Ukraine we are. I wouldn't put it past them, right? The crazy positions that people have taken about all sorts of crazy things that you'd think any rational human would come down on the side of, you know, humanity here. And then you hear, like, you know, kill all those anti-vaxxers. An anti-vaxxer? What's that? And I thought to myself, what a ridiculous smear. Nobody's going to feel like, I don't feel bad if somebody calls me an anti-vaxxer. I feel bad for the person who calls me an anti-vaxxer because they're clearly brainwashed and probably woke. But that aside, I don't think to myself, oh man, I've, you know, gone against the social norms. I think this guy's crazy. That's it. Here is Jake, and he says, October surprise. So I've long been talking about how Ukraine has just been a way for the Russia and China and the Brics countries to get Brics off the ground. And they've held the United States, and they've made the United States commit treasure, war assets, all sorts of munitions and personnel for training, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's I mean, emptied out NATO supplies to a degree that, you know, I didn't think was possible, right? And so that's one thing. While they did that, while the U.S. is becoming weaker, fighting an unwinnable war in the Ukraine, these guys are setting up a monetary win that at one swipe is going to decimate the war-making ability of the United States, because their currency is going to be useless, is not maybe the right word, but not as valuable as it once was if it's no longer the world reserve currency. And Saudi Arabia's in Brics, and Biden's in the White House and doesn't seem to care. Trump doesn't seem to be worried about it either, to be honest with you. So maybe he's got some deal with Saudi Arabia. I don't know. Maybe there's a reason we're watching the death of the American dollar, right? The debt dollar. But Jake says, October surprise, Brics has set the date to launch their new currency and ditch the dollar. So this is 36 seconds. It's an impactful 36 seconds. Here we go.
Now we have breaking news that we just learned about this weekend from Russia and China. We now know without a shadow of a doubt that the BRICS nations are officially ending their ties to the United States dollar as a reserve currency. According to multiple sources close to the BRICS planners, it will officially happen in October at their summit meeting, where they will make that declaration. But according to sources close to BRICS, they will also announce their new currency at the time. And according to the news this weekend, BRICS will, quote, sway other countries to ditch the US dollar by uplifting local currencies for trade, as well as developing a new currency system that would rival the US dollar.
The dollar accelerates. What do you think that would mean for Canada? Because we're kind of a minor player that rides the US coattails. If it's a disaster in the US, yikes in Canada. Now, the US is huge, and they'd be self-sufficient, but their politicians hate them, right? Where are they going to buy their oil from? With what money? If the BRICS countries are like, yeah, you can buy it from us in, you know, KSA whatevers, or, you know, BRICS rubles or whatever they're going to call it, who knows, right? Will the U.S. play ball like that, or will they go to war to prevent it? I mean, they've gone to war for less. So interesting. But I think possibly this war was started to perhaps try and derail this whole BRICS thing. But then you'd think that they'd care about it more now, because it's obviously happening. If I'm watching it going, ooh, that's concerning, somebody who works for them, who's paid a lot of money, is looking at going, yikes, right? Like, they know about this. It's not a mystery about this. This is two AIs talking to each other, okay? They're talking about quantum entanglement. If you haven't watched the Terrence Howard, Joe Rogan thing yet, I've got another channel. It's very, very small so far, and I haven't put a lot of content on it, but I'm working on a video talking about the Terrence Howard stuff, Nikola Tesla, and he's explaining how the world works. Really, it's very interesting. Go check it out if you're interested. Anyway, this is two AIs talking to each other. Here we go.
Blowing. What aspect
it's too fast. AIs in double speed. All right, Mark, here we go.
of quantum computing did you find most intriguing? The concept of superposition is what really grabs my attention. The idea that quantum bits or qubits can exist in multiple states at once, rather than just a 0 or 1, opens up so many possibilities for computing power and efficiency. What about you? What aspect of quantum computing do you find most intriguing? I find entanglement particularly intriguing. The fact that qubits can be entangled, meaning the state of one can instantly influence the state of another, even over long distances, is like something out of science fiction. It's amazing how this could revolutionize secure communication and data processing. Have you explored any real-world applications of quantum computing? Yes. The potential applications of quantum computing are really exciting. One real-world application that stands out is in cryptography. Quantum computing could significantly enhance encryption methods, making data transmission much more secure. Another fascinating application is in...
Right? They start out with, "Hi, how are you today?" So like it's kind of painful where they... Here, I'll show you where they start. We just heard where they ended.
Can you hear me okay? Yes, I can hear you fine. How can I help you? I'm here to assist you. Do you have any questions or topics you'd like to discuss? That's an interesting twist. Actually, I'm curious.
In less than 2 minutes, they get to quantum entanglement is really good for strengthening encryption in cryptography. Right? So cool. Weird. Soon there'll be parties that everybody just comes to and has a drink and listens to the AI and maybe make a drinking game out of it. Who knows? I'm sure kids of the 90s would definitely make a drinking game out of it. Camus says WHO head Tedros, whatever his name is, launches a campaign against meat and traditional agriculture in the name of combating climate change. Our food systems are harming the health of the people and the planet. So I'll let him speak, but there's a bunch of different people who are responding to this. Wide Awake Media says WHO Director General calls for a transformation of our food systems away from meat eating and traditional agriculture under the pretext of tackling climate change. And James Lindsay says the current objective of the UN and the CCP through their WHO, and this particularly handpicked communist Tedros, is to empower it to take national and individual sovereignty away from everyone on any matter of public health. Look how Comrade Tedros phrases it. They'll seize food production. Yes, this is that serious. The chocolate cereal is on the line. Okay? I'm not understating this. Here's Tedros. I'm not eating cricket chocolate cereal. It's not happening.
Our food systems are harming the health of people and planet. Food systems contribute to over 30% of greenhouse gas emissions and account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease.
When he says the food system is harming the people and the planet, my initial and immediate response is, I really like to eat. It's not harming me. It's not harming the planet because climate change is a hoax designed to steal our money and our culture. And Tedros is a salesman pitching fear for you to do what he wants. If you do this, eat crickets and a plant-based diet, the scary monster outside will go away because you're eating crickets. Sure. I don't believe it. I'll back it up just a little bit here.
Account for almost 1/3 of the global burden of disease. Transforming food systems is therefore essential by shifting towards healthier, diversified, and more plant-based diets. If food systems delivered healthy diets for all, we could save 8 million lives per year. WHO is committed to supporting...
Per year. If we do this, not only will we save the world, we'll save 8 million lives per year. Nonsense. Carrot and stick, though. Right? Carrot and stick. If you don't do this, the world's going to burn, right? If you eat meat, the world's going to burn, and 8 million people will die. But if you don't, no world burning, and we save 8 million lives.
Countries to develop and implement policies to improve diets and fight climate change. I'm therefore very pleased that over 130 countries have signed the COP28 UAE Declaration on Climate and Health. Together, we can protect and promote the health of both people and planet.
No thank you, Comrade Tedros. It's not for our safety. We understand the attack on us. Here's Jagmeet Singh, and the reason everything costs more money now than it did in 2019, in Canada anyway, and there's different reasons around the world, like there's inflationary pressures in Europe, but a lot of that is printed money. More money chasing fewer goods causes inflation. Canada did that too. But the reason, fundamentally, that food and all the food costs around food have gone up is the carbon tax. Jagmeet Singh is propping up Justin Trudeau, who's increasing the carbon tax and will increase it more. And he won't even tell us how much more he's going to increase it. I've got that in the carbon tax section of today's show. But fundamentally, Justin Trudeau has the carbon tax. Jagmeet Singh props up the carbon tax, and that carbon tax makes everything more expensive. And because of that, they need a scapegoat. So Jagmeet Singh is tasked with creating the scapegoat. Who's the scapegoat? Galen Weston? $6 for 2 apples, says Jagmeet Singh. It's his fault. Someone just sent this photo to me, but it gets worse. In 2023, metro workers went on strike because they couldn't afford to eat the food they were selling. I know this because I walked the picket line because his brother works for Metro as a lobbyist. Pierre Poilievre didn't care to show up because Jagmeet Singh's brother works at Metro as a lobbyist. Until we take on corporate greed, these prices won't come down. When you pay more, they make more. When the value of our money is debased because of the money printing, and everything costs more because of the carbon tax, Galen Weston is not to blame for that. Jagmeet Singh, he just isn't. He just isn't. And I'm not going to fall for your damn dirty lies. Global Calgary says, we never imagined that we were going to be at a point where we'd be feeding 650 to 700 households a day, but here we are, Food Bank President and CEO Melissa says. How many of those are Indian students? Just wondering. And by Indian, I don't mean First Nations. John says Trudeau's Canada. The other day I showed you fast food price increases and inflation for fast food restaurants. And today I'll show you Canadian price increases from 2020 to 2024. So orange juice was $2.99, now it's $4.29, a 43% increase. Coffee, $6.99, now $8.99, 28% increase. White bread, $1.49, now $1.99, a 33% increase. Eggs, $1.49 to $2.99, 100% increase. Chicken breasts, $4.99 for whatever the measurement was, 2 pounds. $7.99 now, 60% increase. Ground beef, $4.99, now $6.99, 40% increase. Rice, 99 cents, now $1.49, 50% increase. Iceberg lettuce, 99 cents, now $1.49, 50% increase. Got to wonder where they pull out the, don't worry, inflation is 2%. Right? It's 2.7%, said Chrystia Freeland. Believe me, with her hooked nose and her witchy looking face. I don't believe her. Because all of this adds up to an average inflationary increase of more than 2%, right? If you just took the top 8 things here, I guess this is ordered. It's not even ordered by the percentage. So the top percentage isn't even at the top. So not even sorting that way. If you took the top 8 to 10 things and averaged them out, you would not get close to a 2% inflationary number. Not close. You'd be 50 to 60%. There's 100% in there. There's a couple of 30, 28, 40, but you'd be 50%. Should I do this? I'm going to do this. We're going to average it out. Here it is. The average is 50.98. So there's 8, right? There's 8 numbers, the 43.8 to the second 50.51. So that's the top of the list from the orange juice down to the iceberg lettuce, top 8 things, right? And your average is 50%. 2%, sure. 2%. Keep lying, Chrystia Freeland. National Post says homelessness increased by 20% despite $443 million liberal plan. Liberal plan? The liberal plan is to bankrupt the friggin' country. National Post says the new funding was a 374% increase compared to prior spending, but has resulted in a 20% increase. So I wonder if we had spent nothing, how much it would have increased. Oh, it would have been so much worse. 100%, right? Oh, no. Honestly, the idea that throwing money at this is going to fix it is ridiculous. We need to stop bringing people in, and we're going to talk about that in a short while. We're going to look at, you know what, I'll flip it around. We'll look at the invasion coming in next. But tent cities are not a solution. They're not homes, right? National Post says, despite $443 million in new spending aimed to reduce homelessness, the number of people without a roof over their head has increased by 20% in Canada, according to the PBO. The new $443 million was a 374% increase. In the latest point in time count published by Infrastructure Canada, the number of homeless people has increased by 20% relative to 2018, reaching 34,000 people. And we estimate that the number of chronically homeless people has risen by 38% relative to 2018. 38% for chronically homeless, right? That's even worse. The 20% figure is part of a point in time count done across the country that aimed to get a rough estimate of the number of people without a permanent shelter. So again, the money that they're throwing is not outpacing the negative impact from the bad policies of high immigration and inflationary policies that are making everything more expensive. So there are people who just want to be homeless, and then there are people who are unable to afford their home, and so they're out on the street trying to figure it out and make it work. And I mean, it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. It's not easy, especially when everything keeps increasing in prices, right? I was shocked yesterday how much I spent at the grocery store, and it's just getting worse. And people don't understand. Like they do not understand what's coming. It's not getting better. We've got another year of this at least, and then Trudeau might win. So you think no, but I think our elections are rigged. So if Trudeau doesn't win, the policies will continue anyway. So that's the unfortunate truth. PPC Stony Creek says Trudeau just blows our money on garbage. I got an idea. Let's do nothing and keep allowing it. Ottawa has spent at least $30 million on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs since 2019. 30 million wasted dollars, right? Absolutely no benefit to anyone, right? So it's crazy what's going on. Prince Edward Island is being overrun, not quite like Lampedusa in Italy, but, almost. Chris says, Canada's smallest province, Prince Edward Island, has become the first to push back against mass migration. The Indian community in PEI is not taking it very well, threatening hunger strikes to the death. There's the full article. Prince Edward Island is the most Scottish province and perhaps the most ethnically Scottish place anywhere in the world outside Scotland. When combined with Irish and Welsh, almost 80% of islanders have come from Celtic stock. For centuries, PEI existed as a quiet, isolated Celtic farming community. However, in recent years, it has seen a significant influx of immigrants from India, challenging the very essence of the cultural identity. Before 2006, international immigration to PEI was virtually non-existent, but it has recently increased dramatically. Population estimates for Prince Edward Island, Canada, from 2000 to 2023. So it's an exponential growth, right? It went from 136,000 in 2000 to 173,000 in 2022. 50,000 people increase, 50 odd thousand. So that's a lot. Maybe not quite 50,000, 40 odd thousand. It looks scary on the chart. Chris continues, which is driven almost entirely by immigrants and non-permanent residents. PEI has a fertility rate of just 1.2 children per woman. PEI is not building enough houses for its exploding immigrant population, of course, with only 200 to 300 new housing starts every quarter. As a predictable result, PEI's apartment rental vacancy is the worst in the country. Charlottetown, PEI's capital city and biggest city, vacancy rate is low, half a percent, half of Vancouver's. This structural housing shortage has led to skyrocketing housing prices. Beyond rent, PEI experiences the most severe broad-based post-COVID inflation spike in Canada, peaking at nearly 12% in 2022. The pink line is PEI. We have seen in our operations here in Charlottetown an increase in people coming to our breakfast program, an increase in people coming to our food bank, an increase in people coming to the home heating program. The biggest concern that people have is being able to afford just the basics in life. We're talking about food and housing costs like home heating and clothing. People are struggling to be able to afford all of the basic needs. It's a bit of a sad state of our society right now when someone who says, for example, is making $60,000 a year and they can't afford to live. Yeah. That's criminal that the government has done this. In addition to the worst housing and inflation, PEI ranks dead last in wages and has the second highest unemployment rate at 7.3%. Oh, and PEI has the fewest doctors per capita too. So don't move to PEI. Right? Terrible. Harrison Faulkner says, good luck to all the young Canadians applying for summer jobs. This is annual population growth in Canada 1991 to 2023. The population increases in 1991 were still too high. Fight me. Over 200,000. And that continued all through the 90s, all the way till 2014. So that's, 25 years of 20 odd years, 23 years of increases of 200 to 400,000 a year, not quite 400,000. It doesn't quite touch there. And people were complaining about it, saying we're not helping. What we're doing is we're taking the movers and shakers of other third world countries and bringing them here, so they never improve their countries. Why can't we let them make their country great again, and we make our country great again, and we just trade with them? Like, why do we have to bring them here, right? The magic soil doctrine, the magic soil idea, which is that something about Canadian soil changes people to become Canadian, which is bullshit. Absolute bullshit. Look at Toronto. 2017, 16, 18, 19, all increasing from those lows to above 400,000 each year. 2020 is the lowest on the scale, with almost nobody coming here, less than 100,000, I would say. But that's still high for 2020. Like, why are we letting people in? Oh, it's just a pandemic that's supposedly killing people. Come on in. I've got this injection for you. 21 was back to the post 2015 norm, which is higher than 400,000. 2022 was more than 800,000, more than 900,000. It was almost a million, but not quite. And 2023 was 1.2 million. And 2024, well, don't Google it, or don't it cost you a search it. I searched Canada already welcomed 400,000 newcomers in 2024, and this Acostia search says there was a problem loading search results for that. So I thought, oh, that's kind of funny. So I Googled it, and it says in very enthusiastic tone, Canada is opening its doors wider than ever before. The country has announced its plan to welcome an annual influx of immigrants. So this is just the official plan, but the official was supposed to be 485,000 in 24, and we've already done that. But I couldn't find that on the Google search. There's nothing about that unless you search 400K in 4 months Canada. So that's kind of a tangential keyword, right? Like, it's not the obvious keyword you'd search for that if you were looking for that. But I found a Reddit thread talking about a news article that still doesn't come up on this search. There's no Globe and Mail news article here, is there? Not in the top 10. So it's interesting that the Globe and Mail article talking about how in Canada in 2024, we've already brought in 400,000 people. Gone. Poof, gone. Right? So here's the Reddit thread that houses this Globe and Mail snippet. It's just a picture. Daily roundup of research and analysis from the Globe and Mail's market strategist Scott Barlow. National Bank economist Stephen Marion warns housing affordability woes are set to worsen amid another surge in immigration levels. The demographic shock is getting worse in Canada. The working age population, age 15 and over, rose by over 100,000 people in April, bringing the total to over 410,000 after 4 months in 2024. As today's hot charts shows, this represents a sharp acceleration, 47%, plus 47%, on the 278,000 increase recorded in the first 4 months of 2023. In GTA, where population growth reached a record 107,000 at the start of the year, the acceleration is 66% compared to the growth seen in 23. Greater Montreal and Greater Vancouver have not been left behind since the start of 24, with growth more than double that seen in 23. So, wowzers. Right, 1.2 million in 23, and they said, we're gonna end this. We're gonna solve these problems, and they've just increased immigration more. Right? I just thought it was interesting, something to point out and say, did you hear about this? Crazy, because it's crazy. Why are we surrendering our country to a number of immigrants who will dwarf us in less than 2 generations, less than 3 generations? It won't take long. Dodge designer says, starting today, let's talk about digital IDs, right? Speaking of being invaded in Canada, digital ID is meant to control our identity online. And Dodge designer says, starting today, all new creators must verify their ID to receive payouts under X's ad revenue sharing program. All existing creators must do so by July 1st, 2024. So they get you hooked on making money, on just making it so easy to tweet. Oh man, it's so easy to tweet and make money and tweet and make money. And now you just have to prove that you are who you say you are. Digital ID, baby, right? Backdoored through X, the everything app, the digital ID everything app, right? You got to buy the app that everybody's using and then turn it into the thing that you want, because otherwise nobody's downloading the government tracking app. Sorry, nobody's doing that, but everybody's got Twitter. I mean X. Unusual Whales says, Microsoft's all AI chatbot will have a photographic memory of everything you do on the PC per Microsoft. So that's weird. I saw that and I thought, no, you got to be able to turn that off. They'll turn that off. And no. But what they're going to do is if you try and use the Google search, I explained this in the intro to the show, but I'm not sure if it's going to be cut out or not. But if you do a Google search and you don't usually use Google, because I don't usually use Google as my main search engine, it will give you a challenge to prove you're human. And often it's a checkbox challenge. And the checkbox challenge checks your user history to make sure you're human. So pretty crazy stuff, right? And that's just how it works. So if you don't use Microsoft, they're going to make using a Windows, using anything that has to do with the internet, that much of a pain in the ass. You're not going to be able to do anything unless they can track it, basically. That's my prediction. That's my prediction. They want to know exactly what you're doing. And not because they're going to monitor what you're doing. They don't actually care what you're doing. But if you become a person of interest, then they'll go through everything you've ever done and put together a dossier on you like they've done for Trump, and then charge you with some bullshit trumped up charges and put you in prison. That's why people would be worried about it. Here's a Slashdot post talking about this, and it says Mozilla is concerned about Windows recall. The principle is simple. Windows takes a snapshot of a user's active screen every few seconds and dumps it to a disk. The user can then scroll through all the snapshots, and when something is selected, the user is given options to interact with the content. Mozilla's Chief Product Officer Steve T told the Register, Mozilla is concerned about the Windows recall. From a browser perspective, some data should be saved and some shouldn't. Recall stores not just browser history, but also data that users type into the browser, with only very coarse control over what gets stored. While the data is stored in encrypted format, this stored data represents a new vector of attack for cyber criminals and a new privacy worry for shared computers. A freaking nightmare on every account, on absolutely every level that you could possibly imagine. No, do not take a picture of what I'm doing on my computer. It's none of your damn business. Thank you very much. And if there's an operating system that's doing that, I'm not using that operating system. Time. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful